Rising from the East China Sea like a ghost ship of concrete and steel, Hashima Island remains one of the most haunting monuments to the industrial age. Once the most densely populated place on Earth, it is now a fortress of silence. Today, we uncover the secrets of Gunkanjima, the Battleship Island. This is the definitive record of a city that was born in fire and abandoned to the wind. The story began in 1887. Coal was discovered deep beneath the seabed of a small, jagged reef. Mitsubishi purchased the island in 1890, seeing not a rock, but a treasure chest of energy. They began transforming the reef into a massive undersea mining operation. For nearly a century, this tiny rock would power Japan's industrial revolution. Thousands of men descended into the dark every day, mining black gold from the ocean floor. It was a kingdom of industry built on the sweat of an army. In 1916, Mitsubishi built Japan's first large-scale concrete building on the island, a 7-story apartment block designed to withstand the brutal typhoons. It was the beginning of a vertical expansion that would turn Hashima into a concrete labyrinth. Every inch of land was reclaimed from the sea, surrounded by massive seawalls that acted as the hull of this stationary battleship. The island was growing upward and outward, driven by the insatiable hunger for coal. By the 1930s, the skyline of Hashima was unlike anything else in the world, a fortress of humanity, isolated by the waves. By the mid-20th century, Hashima was the engine of a nation. The mines operated 24 hours a day, extracting millions of tons of high-quality coal. The machinery never stopped humming. On the surface, the island was a hive of activity. Conveyor belts moved coal from the shafts to the docks, where a constant stream of ships waited to carry it to the mainland. It was a perfect synergy of human labor and industrial technology. Mitsubishi had created a self-sustaining world, a city that produced the very energy that allowed it to exist. But beneath the mechanical efficiency lay a human story of incredible resilience and staggering density. The island was reaching its physical and social limits. The density on Hashima was staggering, 9 times that of modern-day Tokyo. Over 5,000 people lived on just 16 acres of land. It was a complete society packed into a concrete shell. There were schools, hospitals, temples, and even a cinema. Neighbors lived in such close proximity that privacy was a forgotten concept. Yet, despite the lack of space, a vibrant community thrived. Residents raised families, celebrated festivals, and created a world of their own. They called it the island without green because there was almost no natural vegetation. In its place, rooftop gardens and narrow concrete canyons defined the landscape. This was a social experiment forced by geography, a life lived entirely within the walls of a battleship. Life on Hashima was strictly hierarchical. Managers lived in larger apartments with better views, while the miners and their families occupied the smallest rooms in the darkest parts of the labyrinth. Your position in the mine determined your position on the island. Despite this, the shared isolation created a bond that many former residents still speak of with nostalgia. It was a place where everyone was in the same boat, literally. But the shared experience also included shared dangers. Typhoons would regularly batter the island, sending massive waves over the seawalls and flooding the lower levels. The concrete walls were more than just buildings. They were the only thing standing between the residents and the fury of the East China Sea. The island's history has a darker, more painful chapter. During World War II, the demand for coal surged, and the mines were operated by forced laborers from Korea and China. Under brutal conditions, searing heat, and minimal rations, many never left the tunnels. The records detail a time of immense suffering, where the industrial machine prioritized output over human life. This period remains a point of deep historical controversy and pain, casting a long shadow over the island's legacy. Understanding Hashima means looking directly into these shadows, acknowledging the victims whose labor built the very foundations of the vertical city. Justice and memory are still fighting for space in these ruins, as survivors and historians continue to seek the full truth of what happened in the depths of the battleship. In the 1960s, the world underwent a fundamental shift. Petroleum began to replace coal as Japan's primary fuel source. One by one, the mines of Hashima became obsolete. The energy that had built the island was now the very thing causing its downfall. The population began to dwindle as families sought a more sustainable future on the mainland. The vibrant community that had thrived for decades began to fade into a quiet, collective concern. The vertical city was slowly becoming a shell of its former self. Every day, more windows were boarded up and more shops closed their doors. The battleship was being decommissioned by the very progress it once fueled. The end was no longer a question of if, but when. The silence was beginning to take root in the concrete canyons. In January 1974, Mitsubishi officially announced the island's closure. Residents were given just weeks to pack their lives. They left behind their heavy furniture, their televisions, and their memories. They walked onto ferries with only what they could carry, leaving the vertical city to the elements. In a matter of months, the most crowded place on Earth became a ghost town. The exodus was sudden and absolute. Personal items, calendars still set to 1974, school books left on desks, remained as silent witnesses to the thousands of lives that were once lived here. The battleship was finally empty, left to sail the East China Sea alone. The silence was permanent. The city had died in an instant, but its concrete bones would endure. For decades, the island was closed to the world, a forbidden zone reclaimed by nature. Salt air and typhoons began to tear at the concrete, crumbling the high-rises that once housed thousands. Nature began to take back what humans had built, with vines and trees growing through the very heart of the vertical city. In 2015, Hashima was named a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a recognition of its industrial significance and a reminder of its complex, often painful history. Today, it stands as a fragile monument to the transience of human empires. It is a place of tourism now, but only in designated, stabilized areas. The rest of the island remains a dangerous, decaying labyrinth, belonging only to the wind and the waves. Nature has the final word. Hashima is more than just an abandoned island. It is a mirror reflecting the heights of our industrial ambition and the depths of our struggle. It warns us that no matter how solid our walls, nothing is permanent. The Battleship Island sails on, a silent witness to a century of change. The ruins remain, and the story of Hashima is finally being heard by the world. We leave this place with a question. What will remain of our own cities when the energy that fuels them is gone? The battleship has reached its destination. The silence is finally complete. The end of the ruins is the beginning of memory. The truth of Hashima is finally out. Forever. Fade to black.
Like and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to press on like button.